Welcome to the deep dive. You know, where we take all that stuff you're trying to make sense of, the articles, books, all that research, and we pull out the good stuff.
That's right.
Today we're tackling something, well, kind of personal, even a little delicate, the world of sexual healing.
Yeah.
And our guide for this deep dive is this book you sent over, Sexual Healing, the complete guide to overcoming common sexual problems.
Right.
Now, before you think this is going to be all anatomy lessons and like awkward diagrams,
All right.
it's actually more about getting to the why behind common issues.
Absolutely.
You know, the root
Yeah.
causes.
Yes, exactly.
But-
What I think is so fascinating about this book is how it really highlights that so many of these problems, while they are really common,
Yeah?
they're not just physical.
Right.
They're tied up with our emotions, our relationships,
For sure.
even societal pressures.
Oh, absolutely.
All these things.
It's like our minds and bodies are playing this constant game of tug of war when it comes to intimacy.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things that really jumped out at me when I was prepping for this was how anxieties about performance can actually physically impact things like blood flow.
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy.
It is. And the book breaks down, 9 common sexual dysfunctions.
Okay.
We're not going to go through all of them right now.
Right.
But just to give you an idea of the scope, we're talking about things like low desire, trouble getting aroused, difficulty reaching orgasm, even pain during intercourse.
Wow. So there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
And while those might sound like really separate things, the book suggests there's often this common thread, this mind-body connection. So before we get into the specifics of any one issue, maybe we should unpack that a bit.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling it's relevant for pretty much everyone.
It absolutely is. Think about it. When you're stressed or anxious, your body goes into fight or flight mode,
Right.
which is great if you're running from a tiger,
Sure.
but not so great if you're, trying to get in the mood.
Right. It's like your body saying, nope, not the time for romance, gotta survive.
Exactly. Your heart races, muscles tense up, blood flow gets redirected away from areas that aren't essential for survival.
Yeah.
And guess what? Those areas happen to be pretty important for arousal and pleasure.
So basically, if your mind's not in the right place, your body might not cooperate either.
Precisely. And that's why the book places so much emphasis on activating what it calls the relaxation response. It's about shifting your nervous system from that fight or flight mode into a state of calm and receptivity.
Okay. So how do we do that?
Well, there are a lot of different techniques, but it really starts with becoming aware of your body and your breath,
Okay.
noticing where you're holding tension, and consciously practicing relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation.
So it's not just about sex, is it? This has implications for our overall well-being too, right?
Absolutely. Learning to manage stress and activate the relaxation response can benefit everything from sleep quality to digestion
Wow.
to even how we handle everyday challenges.
Okay, so that's a pretty powerful takeaway right there. Learning to chill out is good for your love life and your life in general.
You got it.
But I'm curious, how does this actually play out when we're talking about specific sexual problems?
Well, let's take something a lot of people struggle with, erection problems.
Okay.
The book gets into the science of it, but the bottom line is there are 2 types of erections. Reflexogenic, which is a direct response to touch,
Okay.
and psychogenic, which is triggered by thoughts or fantasies.
So one's more about the physical mechanics,
Yeah.
and the other's about what's going on in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's where the mind-body connection really comes into play. You might have that ineffable reflexogenic response, but if your mind is flooded with anxieties or negative thoughts,
Right.
it can actually sabotage the whole process.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of anxieties, isn't performance anxiety a huge factor for a lot of men?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
You're worried about not being able to perform, which creates tension and anxiety, which then makes it even harder to perform.
I can see how that would be a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not just about erections, right? This anxiety can affect all aspects of sexual experience for both men and women.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The book talks about how women can experience arousal problems for similar reasons.
Okay.
It's not always about physical limitations.
Right.
It's about feeling relaxed, desired, and connected.
Yeah. So for both men and women, this is about way more than just the mechanics of sex.
Yeah.
It's about feeling comfortable and confident in your own skin. And it's about creating a safe and supportive space with your partner where you can truly let go and be yourselves.
That's a fantastic way to put it.
Yeah.
And the book offers some really insightful guidance on how to cultivate that sense of safety and connection, which is actually where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
Right.
Looking forward to it.
Me too.
Hmm.
Building on that idea of safety and connection,
Yeah.
what's really cool is how the book emphasizes that sexual healing isn't just about fixing problems in the bedroom.
Okay.
Like, it's not just about, getting things working again.
Yeah.
It can actually have this ripple effect on our overall well-being.
Okay. Now that's interesting.
Yeah,
So we're talking about more than just, feeling good in the moment.
exactly. There's a whole section on how sexual health is intertwined with both our physical and emotional health.
Okay.
Did you know that lovemaking releases endorphins,
Mm-hmm.
which can act as natural painkillers?
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
So it's not just a fun activity.
Right.
It's practically a health tonic.
Well, I wouldn't go that far,
Okay.
but the book does make a compelling case for the potential benefits.
Interesting.
It even talks about how addressing sexual issues can sometimes lead to improvements in things like stress, anxiety,
Wow.
even chronic pain.
That makes me think about all the times I've heard people say things like, "Not tonight, honey, I have headache."
Right.
Maybe they've got it backward.
Maybe so. But jokes aside, it really does highlight how interconnected our bodies and minds really are.
Yeah, for sure.
And the book gives some really fascinating examples of how unresolved emotional issues, past traumas,
Wow.
even societal pressures can actually manifest as physical symptoms,
Really?
including sexual problems.
So it's like if you're carrying around a lot of baggage,
Yeah,
it's going to show up somewhere.
this is going to come out.
And that somewhere could be your sex life.
It's definitely a possibility.
Wow.
And this is where the book's emphasis on the power of touch becomes really relevant.
Okay.
It goes beyond just the sexual aspect.
Right.
And it talks about how touch is fundamental to human connection and well-being,
Yeah.
starting from infancy.
That makes
Makes
sense. I mean, think about how comforting a hug can be when you're feeling down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how good a massage feels after a stressful day.
Exactly. Touch is a powerful form of communication, and it can be incredibly healing, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
And the book argues that this need for touch doesn't disappear as we get older.
Right.
It might take different forms,
Yeah.
but that fundamental human desire for connection through touch remains.
And I imagine that's a big part of what makes sexual intimacy so powerful, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about the physical sensations.
Yeah.
It's about that deep emotional connection that's forged through touch.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to romantic partners either.
Right.
Think about, the comfort of holding a loved one's hand
Mm-hmm.
or the therapeutic benefits of massage.
Right.
Touch can be a source of healing and connection in so many different contexts.
So this is really about way more than just spicing things up in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the profound impact that touch and intimacy can have on our overall well-being.
You got it. And one of the most powerful techniques the book explores for cultivating this kind of mindful healing touch is something called sensate focus.
Okay.
We touched on it briefly earlier,
Right.
but it really deserves a deeper dive.
Okay. I'm all ears.
All right.
Remind me, what's the basic idea behind sensate focus?
Essentially, it's a structured approach to touch that emphasizes mindful awareness of sensations.
Okay.
It involves taking turns, giving and receiving touch.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal isn't necessarily to reach orgasm.
Right.
It's more about slowing down, being present in the moment,
Yeah.
and really paying attention to the subtle nuances of touch, the different textures, temperatures, pressures.
So it's like a mindfulness practice, but for intimacy.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly helpful for couples who have fallen into a routine
Right.
or who are dealing with challenges that have made sex feel more like a chore than a pleasure.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You know?
Thinking about the challenges we talked about earlier, like performance anxiety,
Right.
I can see how this could be really beneficial.
It takes the pressure off of performing
Exactly.
and allows you to just focus on the sensations and the connection.
That's one of the biggest benefits. It creates a safe and supportive space to explore intimacy without the baggage of expectations or insecurities.
So how does sensate focus actually work in practice?
Okay.
Well, the book mentions something about active and passive roles.
Right. So one partner takes on the role of the giver, the one who is actively touching and exploring,
Okay.
while the other partner is the receiver, simply focusing on the sensations they're experiencing.
Got it.
And it's important to emphasize that the receiver isn't focused on pleasing the giver or trying to perform in any way.
Right.
It's about letting go of anxieties and simply allowing yourself to be present in your body,
Yeah.
receiving the touch without judgment or expectation.
That sounds incredibly liberating, especially for people who struggle with self-consciousness or body image issues. Absolutely. It's about rediscovering the joy of touch and connection without all the mental noise that can get in the way.
Yeah.
And the book has some really detailed examples of sensate focus exercises, starting with basic caresses and gradually progressing to more intimate explorations.
Any examples that stand out to you?
One that's often used as a starting point is the back caress.
Okay.
It's a gentle, non-intrusive way to begin exploring sensate focus, as the back is generally considered a less charged area of the body.
So it's a good way to ease into the process
Yeah.
and get comfortable with the concept of mindful touch.
Exactly. And from there, the exercises progress to other areas of the body, like the face, chest, and eventually the genitals.
But the whole time, the focus is on that mindful awareness of sensations rather than rushing towards a goal.
Exactly.
Good
It's
thing.
about savoring the journey, not just focusing on the destination.
Now, the book also emphasizes that communication is key throughout the process.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the context of sensate focus?
It's about creating a space where both partners feel comfortable expressing what feels good, what doesn't, and any emotions or sensations that come up during the experience.
And that open dialogue can actually strengthen the relationship as a whole, right?
Absolutely. It could be a transformative experience, not just for your sex life,
Right.
but for how you connect and communicate with your partner on a deeper level.
Now, we've talked a lot about the mind-body connection, the importance of touch and communication.
Yeah.
But what about those specific sexual challenges we mentioned earlier?
Right.
How does the book approach those?
Well, it takes a multifaceted approach, recognizing that there's rarely a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
But it always comes back to that mind-body connection, addressing both the physical and psychological components of the issue.
So for something like low sexual desire, which can be a really sensitive topic for people, how does the book suggest approaching that?
It starts by acknowledging that everyone's libido fluctuates naturally throughout life. There's no magic number for how often you should want sex.
Right.
It's more about noticing a significant and persistent decline that's causing you distress.
And if that is the case, what are some of the suggestions the book offers?
It explores a wide range of possibilities, from lifestyle changes like reducing stress and improving sleep to communication exercises that help couples reconnect and rekindle intimacy,
Okay.
to even exploring potential medical interventions like hormone therapy if needed.
So it's really about taking a holistic approach, looking at the whole picture rather than just focusing on one symptom.
Exactly. And it emphasizes that it's often a process of experimentation and communication, finding what works best for each individual and couple.
Now, another challenge we touched on earlier was sexual aversion disorder.
Right?
This is where someone experiences intense fear or disgust related to sex,
Yeah,
which can be incredibly isolating and difficult to talk about.
absolutely.
How does the book approach this sensitive topic?
It approaches it with a lot of compassion, recognizing that the roots of sexual aversion can often be traced back to past trauma,
Okay.
negative experiences, or deeply ingrained beliefs.
So it's not just about fixing the aversion, it's about addressing those underlying issues.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the book suggests that the healing process often involves therapy, self-exploration, and working with a trusted professional to process those experiences and develop coping mechanisms.
And I imagine that communication with a partner plays a crucial role here as well.
Absolutely. Open and honest communication is essential for creating a safe and supportive environment where both partners feel heard and respected.
Now, we've talked about challenges related to desire and aversion, but what about physical pain during intercourse?
Yeah,
We touched on dyspareunia briefly,
right.
but the book also mentions a condition called vulvodynia.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Vulvodynia is a chronic pain condition that affects the vulva, the external part of the female genitalia. It can range from a burning or stinging sensation to sharp stabbing pain.
Wow.
And it can make intercourse incredibly difficult or even impossible.
And that can be really frustrating and disheartening, especially if you don't know what's causing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the causes of vulvodynia are often unknown, which can make it challenging to find effective treatment.
So what does the book suggest for people who are experiencing this kind of pain?
It goes into detail about the different types of vulvodynia, as well as the various treatment options available. which can range from medication to physical therapy to lifestyle changes.
Okay.
It also stresses the importance of seeking professional help if you're experiencing these symptoms.
Right.
There are specialists who can help diagnose and manage vulvodynia,
Okay.
and finding the right treatment can significantly improve your quality of life.
That's reassuring to hear.
Yeah.
And it reinforces the message that you don't have to suffer in silence.
Right.
There are resources available to help you find relief and reclaim your sexual well-being.
Exactly. And one of the most important resources you have is your own ability to communicate openly and honestly with your partner, your doctor, and anyone else you trust to support you on this journey.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about the mind-body connection, the power of touch, sensate focus, and specific challenges like low desire, sexual aversion, and pain during intercourse.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But there's one more essential piece of the sexual healing puzzle that we need to address.
Okay.
Self-love.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Self-love is really the foundation for healthy intimacy, both with ourselves and with others.
And it's something that a lot of people struggle with, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when it comes to our bodies and our sexuality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We live in a culture that bombards us with images of perfect bodies
Right.
and unrealistic expectations about sex,
For sure.
which can make it really hard to feel good about ourselves and our own unique desires.
So how do we cultivate self-love in a world that often tells us we're not enough?
It starts with recognizing those negative self-talk tapes that tell you you're not good enough, sexy enough,
Right.
or worthy of pleasure.
Oh, yeah, those tapes.
Right.
Or those tapes.
And then it's about consciously choosing to challenge those messages
Okay.
and replace them with more loving and accepting thoughts.
So it's a process of unlearning those harmful messages and relearning how to appreciate and celebrate our bodies and our sexuality.
Exactly. And the book offers some really insightful exercises for cultivating self-love,
Okay, like what?
from body image affirmations to sensual self-massage
Hmm.
to simply spending time appreciating your body in all its beauty and complexity.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our focus from what we think we should be
Right.
to embracing who we truly are.
And that inner radiance will inevitably spill over into your relationships,
Yeah.
creating a more confident, authentic, and empowered in.
You know, we've explored a lot of different aspects of sexual healing in this deep dive. From the science of arousal to the power of touch to the importance of communication and self-love.
Right.
But I'm sensing there's even more to uncover.
Yeah.
What other insights does the book offer for taking intimacy to a whole new level?
Okay, so we've talked about the foundations of sexual healing,
Right.
the mind-body connection, the power of touch, communication, self-love.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to get into the really juicy stuff.
Okay.
What does the book have to say about taking intimacy to a whole new level?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The book goes beyond just addressing problems. And it starts exploring how we can use our sexuality as a force for deeper connection,
Okay.
personal growth,
Yeah.
even healing.
Okay. I'm officially intrigued.
All right, give me the details.
One of the most fascinating concepts the book delves into is the idea of using lovemaking to actually promote physical healing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we talking about some kind of mystical ritual here?
Not quite. It's more about understanding how the powerful energy released during sex can be intentionally channeled.
Okay.
The book gives examples of people using this approach to manage chronic pain,
Interesting.
reduce stress, and even improve symptoms of conditions like asthma.
Now, obviously, we're not doctors here,
Right.
and we're not suggesting anyone ditch conventional medicine.
Of course not.
But I am curious to hear more about how this works.
Yeah.
Is it about visualization?
It's a combination of things.
Okay.
The book talks about specific breathing techniques, visualizations, and even just cultivating a sense of loving presence with your partner during intimacy.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're not just a bunch of separate parts,
Right.
but a complex, interconnected system
Yeah.
where our physical, emotional, and mental states are constantly influencing one another.
So it's like if you bring a sense of healing and intention into your lovemaking, it can actually have a positive impact on your physical well-being.
That's the idea. Again, it's not about replacing traditional medicine,
Right.
but it's about tapping into the power of our own bodies and minds to support healing and well-being.
You know, this reminds me of some of the principles of tantric sex I've read about.
Yeah.
The idea of extending the experience beyond just the physical act.
Right.
Is there a connection there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book touches on tantric principles,
Okay.
especially the idea of prolonging pleasure, deepening intimacy, and tapping into a more spiritual dimension of connection.
And one of the key techniques in Tantra is learning to control your sexual energy, right? Yeah. Rather than just, letting it explode in a fleeting moment.
Exactly. The book talks about a technique called peaking,
Okay.
where you bring yourself to the edge of orgasm, then back down, multiple times before actually climaxing.
So it's about building anticipation,
Yeah,
intensifying the sensations, and ultimately having a more fulfilling experience.
exactly. And it can be incredibly empowering for both men and women because it gives you greater control over your own sexual response.
And I have to ask about something that's always fascinated me. Multiple orgasms.
Well,
Is it real?
it's definitely real.
Okay.
And not just for women.
Right.
Men can experience multiple orgasms too.
Right.
It just takes a bit of understanding and practice.
So what's the secret?
The key is learning to separate orgasm from ejaculation.
Okay.
For men, these usually happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
But with practice, it's possible to have multiple orgasms without ejaculating each time.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I imagine it takes a lot of, stamina.
It definitely takes practice and patience.
Yeah.
But the book provides some techniques to explore.
Okay.
And it's something that can be incredibly rewarding for both partners.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
And it's all been so fascinating.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, is there one overarching theme that stands out to you from all of this?
No.
What's the most important takeaway?
For me, it's the idea that sexuality is not just about pleasure.
Okay.
Though pleasure is certainly a wonderful part of it.
Right.
It's a powerful force for connection, healing, growth,
Yeah.
and even spiritual exploration.
I love that.
It's about honoring our bodies, our desires, and the profound intimacy we can share with another person.
I love that.
Yes.
It really elevates the whole conversation beyond just the mechanics of sex.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this book so valuable.
Yeah.
It encourages us to view our sexuality as a source of power, joy, and even sacred connection.
This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely leaving with a lot to think about and explore.
Oh, good.
So to all you knowledge seekers out there, keep diving deep. Keep those minds curious, and never underestimate the power of intimacy to enrich your life.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.